Welcome to S140, Sustainment for Tactical Forces in MDO. The focus of this class is self-explanatory. Sustainment is what keeps the military running. It involves making sure that the troops have what they need to fight and win, from food and water to bullets and bandages. Sustainment is a team effort, and it involves everyone from senior leaders to the soldiers on the ground, as well as our joint and international allies. When Heinz Guderian said, "Logistics is the ball and chain of armored warfare," he was referring to the fact that armored forces are highly mobile and require a complex logistics system to support their operations. This includes providing them with fuel, ammunition, food, water, and spare parts. Armored forces also require specialized transportation and maintenance assets. Guderian's words are still relevant today. Armored forces are highly mobile and require a complex logistics system to support their operations. Any military commander who plans to use armored forces must carefully consider the logistics challenges involved. This class focuses on planning for the support of military operations at the tactical level through the sustainment warfighting function. Even though sustainment planning is usually done by sustainment planners, everyone should have a basic understanding of the science of sustainment and how to create a sustainment concept. This is because sustainment is essential for the success of any military operation. Sustainment helps to keep the force ready to fight by providing it with the people, systems, equipment, and support it needs. Sustainment is integrated with operations, allowing commanders at all levels to anticipate requirements in time and space, to understand what is needed, track and deliver what is requested, and make decisions to ensure that sustainment is responsive. The art of sustainment involves mitigating shortfalls to deliver required combat power to the combatant commander with minimal risk across the depth of the operational area with unrelenting endurance. In this slide, we've defined the sustainment warfighting function and broken down the various sub-functions of sustainment: logistics, financial management, personnel services, health service support. You'll recall from S130, we covered the joint sustainment functions. In the joint definition, joint sustainment includes two functions versus the Army's four, as shown in the slide. Financial management is included in personnel services, and health service support is included in logistics as joint health services. Also, transportation and distribution are combined as deployment and distribution. Joint engineering includes combat and geospatial, while the Army generally aligns these with movement and maneuver, protection, and C2. Someday, you may become an XO. Understanding the sustainment warfighting function will enable you in your role as the unit's warfighting function integrator. The figure on the right, resembling the ancient Greek Parthenon multiple times, this slide also brings forward the FM4-0 logic chart to show the linkages between unified action, MDO, the sustainment warfighting function, and decisive action, MDO. Our doctrine continues to evolve and get updated. All three ATPs listed here have been updated since the most recent publication of FM3-0 in October of 2022. These ATPs incorporate MDO principles. You'll find that Army sustainment enables multi-domain operations by providing the support required to keep the Army and its unified action partners engaged in operations across the operational environment. All sustainment operations are guided by fundamental principles. You can always remember the principles of sustainment by using this mnemonic device: a crisis exists. To these terms and the Army operational framework in Charlie 401, Sustainment operations stretch across the depth and breadth of the battlefield. The support area is where most of an echelon's sustainment capabilities originate, and it includes lines of communication between the close area and the base clusters where sustainment activities occur. Here with this chart on the left. Understanding the different types of command and support relationships is essential before determining requirements and capabilities. These relationships often shift during the course of an operation or mission, which means that you might need to re-examine or recalculate requirements, capabilities, shortfalls, and risk during each phase of the mission. The highlighted green box just reinforces the fact that when a command relationship is present, there is no requirement to establish a support relationship, as it is inherent to the command relationship of organic, assigned, and attached. Also note that OPCON and TACON command relationships do not include ADCON authority unless otherwise specified in the order. So the parent units of OPCON or TACON units are technically still responsible to coordinate and or execute their sustainment support. You're probably familiar with support relationships. One of the first things you'll want to note about support relationships is that, except for general support, these relationships provide authority, but also direct responsibility. So what are some of the differences between the command relationship and the support relationship? Well, one thing is that when there is an established command relationship, such as the one between the FSC and a maneuver battalion, the support relationship will always be direct. Direct and reinforcing support relationships give the supported or reinforced unit positioning authority. The supported or reinforced unit may also establish priorities for the supporting unit. None of the support relationships include the authority to task organize the supporting unit. The parent unit also retains the responsibility to provide sustainment. The blue highlighted box explains that sustainment units do not typically use reinforcing or general support reinforcing, but one example is provided. Finally, take note that area support is not a support relationship. It is simply a task given to sustainment units within a specific geographic area. Mnemonic is simply a way to remember the process that logisticians conduct to develop the concept of sustainment and other planning products. In many ways, this process is not much different from the processes that other warfighting functions require to analyze and prepare for a mission. Let's examine this process, starting with the end goal in mind. So, paragraph 4 alpha of your op order is the concept of sustainment. This concise yet comprehensive paragraph tells the commander, subordinate commanders, and the primary staff how the critical sustainment actions unfold in support of the concept of operations found in paragraph 3. The other here support or expand upon the concept of sustainment. Sustainment planners keep these products in mind as they begin mission analysis. So, determining requirements, assessing capabilities, identifying and thinking of ways to mitigate shortfalls, and evaluating risk as they synchronize their processes with the operational plan. A wide array of resources, let me go back, a wide array of resources including training, doctrine, lessons, resources, including training, doctrine, resources, and estimation tools can be found on the Army Sustainment Resources portal, right there. Helps explain how and why we task organize ESCs and sustainment brigades and CSSBs to support divisions assigned or attached to the Corps. The ESC at the theater echelon in support of a TSC is distinct from other ESCs in that those attached to the TSC primarily support forces in the AOR that are not inside a separate JOA or area of operations. The exception is that the TSC's ESC could provide distribution or throughput to forces or ESCs inside of a JOA or area of operations. The Core Assigned ESC plans for near-term operations and assists the Core Sustainment Cell with planning and coordinating sustainment to meet the demands of current operations. The Core ESC and its subordinate task-organized functional and multifunctional sustainment units provide general support for all units in the Core AO. Core Assigned ESCs are currently being redesigned and redesignated as Core Sustainment Commands with an FDU pending. Sustainment brigades may be attached or assigned to the TSC or Core ESC. Division sustainment brigades are assigned to the division. ESC's sustainment brigades belonging to the Core maintain similar structures as other ESCs and sustainment brigades, but they may be task organized to support mission requirements. The ESC commander may also serve as the Core DCGS, the Deputy Commanding General for Support. The DSP is a multifunctional logistics headquarters that provides logistics and personnel services support to the assigned division. The DSP commander is the senior advisor to the division commander, and as we talked about before, may serve as the Deputy Commanding General for Support for the sustainment warfighting function. The DSP and its subordinate units assigned to a division provide direct support to all assigned and attached units in an operational area as directed by the division commander. The DSP provides GS logistics, personnel services, and financial management to non-divisional forces operating in the division area of operations. Brigades are organic to brigade combat teams. They provide distribution, maintenance, and medical support to the brigade. Forward support companies provide direct support to supported battalions within the brigade with capabilities tailored to each battalion. BSBs also exist in field artillery brigades, mobility enhancement brigades, special forces groups, and aviation brigades, or ASBs, though in slightly different structures. This slide will brigade support area, or BSA, with the BSB distribution company, the field maintenance company, and the medical company, as well as the field trains and their command posts. The BSB commander and SPO heavily influence the BSA location as they consider how best to support BCT operations. The BCT S3, as the brigade's terrain manager, has significant input and responsibility to deconflict PAAs, location of the reserve, and other planned areas that endanger the BSB or would severely degrade operations. The occupants of the BSA may change with MET-TC and unit SOPs, but listed here are some of the potential or likely occupants. The size of the BSA is significant and may cover some 28 square kilometers. For comparison, Fort Leavenworth is 22.7 square kilometers or 5,600 acres. The BSA may as a base cluster. This spreads sustainment and support assets over a larger geographic area that minimizes the effects of artillery, air, and ground attack. The planning factors for establishing a BSA still apply. However, the base cluster approach complicates C2 and perimeter security. Each smaller base requires perimeter defense to allow adequate and mutual protection of other bases. This must be accomplished while minimizing the likelihood of striking an adjacent base with small arms fire. The echeloned support of the BCT consists of three levels: field, combat, and company trains. Field trains are typically located within the BSA or somewhere near it. Personnel at the field trains coordinate support requirements between the battalion and the BSB. Combat trains may consist of a CTCP, the battalion or squadron's HHC first sergeant, S1, S4, battalion aid station, MCP, company supply sergeants, or other representatives. The forward support company typically positions its commander, first sergeant, field feeding section, the distribution platoon, MCO, and the maintenance platoon in the combat trains. The company trains is positioned outside of direct fire range and usually consists of the first sergeant, medics, supply sergeant, and a maintenance team. As an alternative, the battalion may choose to consolidate assets and employ unit trains instead of echeloned trains as discussed on this slide. Unit trains at the battalion level are appropriate when the battalion is consolidated during reconstitution and during major movements. This slide provides in-depth discussion on who goes where and to what distances doctrine says each is generally placed. This is simply a conceptual depiction. Once again, MET-TC and unit SOPs will often modify what you see here. Sustainment units use these basic distribution methods. Unit distribution is a method in which the supporting unit comes to the unit's location to deliver the supplies. Supply point distribution is when the receiving units come to get their supplies at a designated location. Throughput distribution is unit distribution, except the supporting unit skips over one or more echelons to deliver supplies. So this could be the BSB distro company, for example, pushing class 4 or ammunition directly to the maneuver battalion to avoid losing time transloading supplies between trucks. Here are some terms understood or misapplied in sustainment planning. So a forward logistics LE is a task-organized asset. It is established on a temporary basis for a specific purpose, which is usually to support a fast-moving offensive operation. Using the FLE involves responsiveness and continuity, but decreases simplicity and survivability. A refuel on the move, or ROM, is a mission designed to extend reach and increase tempo, usually for offensive operations. ROMs present challenges in terms of survivability and continuity. Ideally, ROMs are executed using rear assets to keep forward assets as full as possible. A combat configured load is a term used specifically for ammo within doctrine. However, in practice, the term has been expanded to include other classes of supply. CCLs are typically pre-configured in depots and stored on ships, while mission-configured loads are assembled from stocks on hand in the theater. The use of pre-configured loads leverages anticipation and responsiveness, but decreases economy. A day of supply, or DOS, a common term used to translate stocks on hand into a time period of endurance. At a high level, for example, set the theater requirements, it works reasonably well, but at lower levels, variables can drastically change the daily requirements, and this term often becomes unreliable. This slide is intended to depict many used in developing a concept of sustainment to support an operation. This is a good slide to put into your kit bag and pull out when developing a concept of sustainment to support an operation. This slide shows where MDMs for the concept of sustainment are developed. The four products on the right-hand side of the slide, staff estimates, sustainment synchronization matrix, and so on, are hyperlinked to hidden slides that describe them more in detail. Take some time to explore each product and consider how they're used and produced during MDMP to make the concept of sustainment. Here's an example of a final present for a concept of sustainment. This is an example of a high-level overview and would likely be accompanied by depictions of supporting concepts for next-level functions. For example, the concept of fuel, the concept of ammunition, the concept of finance, and so on. This would likely tie into other support plans, like the medical or medevac support plan. Now note, this slide is not the concept of support or concept of sustainment. This is simply a means of briefing the concept of sustainment, which is found in paragraph 4 of the operations order. Take some time to review the examples on this slide. The RSR, or required supply rate, is a bottom-up requirement that movement and maneuver and/or fires planners should generate to support an unconstrained operational plan. The CSR, or controlled supply rate, is a top-down capability generated based on sustainment infrastructure capacity to provide specified ammunition quantities indefinitely without introducing culmination risk. Commanders advised by their staffs are the decision makers who determine whether a CSR will be imposed and how it will be distributed to subordinates. CSRs need not be a fixed number across any given level of command. So different subordinates may be given different CSR values in order to weight the main and supporting efforts. After the CSR becomes a fact, it is no longer a logistics issue and now drives operations or operational decisions, much like CAS sortie allocations. This slide is intended to show you that sustainment is not just a sustainer's problem. Nearly all sustainment planning done well incorporates the other warfighting functions and their expertise. Likewise, a good concept of sustainment should mirror the concept of operations and complement the other warfighting functions. So here's the outline of our key takeaway. We've covered a lot of ground. I hope that you've come to appreciate that while most of this planning is within the domain of sustainment planners, appreciating and understanding the basics of these processes is important for staff members and commanders at all levels and of every warfighting function. Army sustainment is based on an integrated process that is inextricably linked to operations. Thank you.